Welcome back to the Success Catalyst. Today I have a special guest, Rich Taylor, a seasoned expert in diet, lifestyle, and stress prevention. With over 40 years of experience in the fast-paced world of advertising, Rich knows firsthand the toll that constant pressure and stress can take on one's health and well-being. Throughout his career, Rich used stress as motivator to meet tight deadlines and deliver high-impact results. However, he eventually realized the significant negative side effects this approach had on his life. This revelation led him on a journey to discover how to live 100% stress-free. Now, Rich has started a movement to help others achieve the same powerful results, transforming lives by teaching effective stress prevention and management techniques. I am excited to dive into Rich's journey from a high-stress career to becoming a leader in stress-free living, and to learn about the strategies he employs to maintain a balanced, healthy lifestyle. So welcome to the show, Rich.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
So after spending over 40 years, that's impressive, in the advertising business, what prompted you to transition to a focus on stress-free living and becoming an expert in diet, lifestyle, and stress prevention?
Well, I mean, if I start at the beginning, at the beginning of the 40 years, when I was in art school studying graphic design, a member from the local community came in that worked at a local advertising agency, and he asked some of us students to take on a job. And he told us about the project, and we said, "Well, when do you need it?" He said, "I need it yesterday." And
Mhm.
when someone said they need something yesterday, that tells you pretty much what the advertising business is like.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
Unfortunately, yesterday is now in everything, not just advertising. It's in all parts of life. And that's very unfortunate. So it's very high pressure, lots of deadlines. And the name deadline is a very bad word. Think
Mm.
about it. Deadline. Who wants to meet a deadline? Nobody. So
No.
I spent 40 years tackling one hill after another, after one challenge, project. And, I always made every deadline, and I don't like the word, but I always made it. But there's a sacrifice when you do that. And I developed multiple health issues from it. I used to eat constantly. I used to snack on carbs all day long to keep the energy going because I was stressed out. And I didn't want to end up like my father, who, had his pills in the morning, his pills in the afternoon, and his pills at night. And I'm over 69 years old, and I have zero medication. I don't take any prescriptions or anything. And I know a lot of people my age in America, at least I could say, are shocked when I tell them that you're not on any prescription medication. I'm like, no, and I don't plan on it. So I developed multiple health issues, and thank God I'm over most of them. And the other ones I have left, I'm still, getting better on. So the body is amazing at adapting and reversing itself. So even though you may have gone down one road, the body can change that if you change what you're doing to it. And so stress is not a good way to live your life.
That makes sense. Yeah. And you mentioned that you use stress as a motivator to meet deadlines before and achieve results in your advertising career. Can you share how this approach worked for you initially and what led you to realize it was unsustainable? Like, what was the turning point? Was like a moment where it all shifted?
Yeah. Well, stress is great for motivation because when you're in a stress, we call it stress, but it's really the stress response, which
Mm,
is the body's automatic 911 survival mechanism that's built into our brain. It automatically switches from one part of the brain, the creative problem solving, rational part of the brain, to the part that handles the stress response, which is the amygdala. And
mm,
it's great for fight, flight, or freeze. You can run away from it, you can fight it, or you can freeze. And what happens is the brain throws chemicals into our bloodstream, hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And everyone knows what adrenaline is. Like literally, we've heard the story of a 98-pound grandmother whose child or grandchild is trapped under this big heavy weight, and they have the strength to lift that car, which they normally could never do. And that's great because that's a survival thing. And that's great for if it happens like once in your life, but not all the time. But so you getting a burst of energy, adrenaline, always being on adrenaline and cortisol, will give you it's like, taking a super shot of caffeine.
Mhm.
It's going to give you a big boost, but you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, as we say. That energy is not free. When you drink coffee or take caffeine, the caffeine doesn't give you the energy. It's the stimulating your stress response.
Mhm.
It stimulates adrenaline. So, anyway, so using it as motivation is, you burn out, and that realize that, your whole life, and I'm like over 69 now, you can spend your whole life turning into a robot, senseless, n- not having any pleasure, not having, meaning in life. You're not going to be the best person because stressed people are very self-centered because you're in survival, and you're going to just live your life as a robot. And, that's not a fun way to live. It's really kind of lousy. And this is the worst part. When you're in a stress response, you lose track of time, because in a stress response, you get what's known as tunnel vision, because you're focusing just on the tiger in front of you, the danger in front of you. And unfortunately, our brain cannot decipher between physical danger, like a tiger facing us, or emotional danger, like I'm late for work, or I'm stuck in traffic, or I have a big project to do, or had an argument with a family member. Both are just as, able to trigger the stress response. So yes, you'll get the project done, but you'll have no life. You won't enjoy life at all. And all your things, like your relationships, your health, all kinds of physical, mental problems, all because we're not meant to be in a stress response all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true that our brain does not really differentiate between a real tiger and the tiger in your head that is a deadline or the next project or the thought of your boss yelling at you. And it's easy to, I think, to trick the brain to just initiate that kind of response. But maybe it's also there's also a way that we can also trick the brain into managing this stress differently. I know you've started a movement to help others achieve stress-free living. So can you tell us more about this movement and how it aims to transform people's lives?
Well, yeah, I published 3 books. The current one I just did, called The Stress-Free Diet, also has Stress-Free You and Stress-Free Work. I have a podcast that I do every week, comes out on Tuesday, called The Stress-Free Diet. It's everywhere podcasts are. I do, I pretty much post one video per day on YouTube, TikTok, um, and I have a website called The Stress-Free Diet. And if you want to look for the books, they're on Amazon. My name's Richard Taylor, or Rich Taylor, and just look for the names of the books. But the one thing I want to say is, well, actually, for the next thing you want to talk about, the stress prevention techniques. I'm jumping ahead here, but
Mhm.
I didn't want to forget this. There is something that we can do to automatically trigger or to take us out of the stress response. We're in a stress response. Our There's 2 parts of the autonomic nervous system: the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is fight, flight, or freeze. So that's what's triggered a stress response. We're supposed to be in the parasympathetic, which is rest, digest, and restore. Now, obviously, which one do you want to be? I mean, obviously, rest, digest, and restore sounds a whole lot better and healthier than the other one.
Obviously.
But there is this hack that I just learned that it works really good, and it kind of tricks you back into the rest, digest, and restore. And that's very simple. It can be done. It's anywhere you want. Just don't do it when you're driving or doing machinery or doing something like that. But you can lay on your back, put your hands behind your head where your neck and your head meet, and just relax, and then stare straight ahead. And if you can't do that, you could be sitting up and do this. I do it in bed before I go to sleep. It puts me to sleep like right away. It's like a sleeping pill.
Wow.
It literally tricks you. And you stare straight ahead, and then all you do is, without moving your head, you move your eyes to the 3 o'clock position, and you
Mhm.
keep them there until you get a sigh, a yawn, or a anyway, I forgot the other one. I can't believe I forgot that. But anyway, and then you do, I yawn all the time. And then, so then you move your eyes back to 12 o'clock and then you move it to the 9 o'clock and you keep it there. Oh, a sign, a sigh, a swallow, or a yawn.
Mm.
And it's the most bizarre thing in the world, but it really works. It's free. It costs nothing. So anytime you feel any kind of stress, you could do it all day long. And it constantly, it's like, think of a car that gets its accelerator stuck, okay? And you
Yeah.
can try all you want to, you know, but if your foot is stuck on that accelerator, you need something to physically take it off. And this is what does it. It actually literally reroutes your signals in your brain, and it
Wow.
will bring you into the parasympathetic. And if you need to do it multiple times, do it multiple times before a big meeting, before a big test, anything you can do to get you back into the rest, digest, restore. So then you're back into the part of the brain that you can control your destiny instead of being just a victim.
Wow. And you said we can literally do it like sitting up like this.
You can do it sitting up. You don't have to put your hands behind your head. I do when, like, literally, I'm in bed, and when I'm, I have a lot of energy. I usually have to go walk every night, and
Mhm.
I'm usually doing like squats and push-ups before I go to bed because I have a lot of energy.
Wow.
I because of the diet I'm on, it just keeps me energized. I don't have blood sugar spikes like I used to.
Mhm.
So, that's what I do, and it's like a sleeping pill. It's like I do that, and next thing I know, I'm asleep, sound asleep.
Wow, I love that. I want to know more about your techniques to prevent stress. So, can you share any other lifestyle changes that you'd recommend for people to prevent and manage stress effectively?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's in the book I wrote, Stress Free Diet, there's 18 stress triggers listed in there. And a
Mhm.
stress trigger is a person, place, or thing that causes you stress. I mean, you could pretty much boil down anything to that. A
Mhm.
person could be your relationship that you have. It could be your boss. It could be someone you meet on the street, a place. It could be, where you work. It could be where you commute from, or a thing. It could be something like playing video games all day long that could be stressing you out, or other things like that. So in the book, I'm going to give you one example right here is consuming the news in any fashion. Well, here in America, our news is heavily divided between right and left, red and blue.
Mhm.
And you have to understand, I'm old enough to remember, news used to be 30 minutes a day in
Mhm.
America. And then in 1980, CNN came out with 24-hour news. Well, they used to have 30 minutes of news, and after the commercials and advertisements, there's really maybe 18 minutes of news. Now they have to keep you occupied for 24 hours. So how do they do that? They keep you in a stress response. They keep you aggravated. They keep you ticked off. They keep you frustrated. They have people yelling and screaming at each other on the news. It's not news. It's highly toxic. So don't consume the news. Understand that the news is not news. And what do you really need to know? I mean, it's all the same stuff all over the place, just different names and places. And there are people who have big TVs in their house, and they have it going 24/7, and they're yelling at the TV, they're cursing at the TV. It's stressing you out. And there's a saying in American news is their goal is to put things on the news that will embarrass your grandmother and make your grandfather mad. So that's their goal. That's their plan. And I don't watch the news or anything, so it doesn't stress me out. So that's one of my stress triggers. And I know people that stop watching it, and they're like, I can't believe this one thing I did made my life so much better.
Yeah, me neither. I don't watch the news at all. And when people ask me like, How did you stay like aware of what's going on?" I mean, I would know what's going on. If there's something that will affect me, I would certainly know.
Oh
But
yeah.
most of the times it's news that like all over the world, we know that there is hardly any good news in the news. It's like, it literally should be called bad news, like 24-hour bad news. Why
Right.
would you listen to that? I don't understand.
No, you're totally right. And Elon Musk said the news is basically they search the world for the worst things that happen every day, and they put it on your TV screen. Well, like, why do I want to know the worst things that happen every
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are such amazing creatures. So, I think diet and lifestyle choices also play a role in managing stress. So, what specific changes can people make to support a stress-free life?
Well, actually, I would say it's the opposite. Diet and lifestyle, it's more like your stress plays
Mhm.
a role in your diet and lifestyle. Because if I think
Yes.
the average American has tried over 30 diets in their lifetime. Well, if you're
Okay.
trying over 30 diets, obviously they're not working. You know what
Uh-huh.
I mean? So there's something that's preventing people from doing that. So they start a diet, they're all motivated, they have willpower, and they get 2 or 3 days into it and they have a stressful morning, a stressful thing. And the moment you're in a stress response, you have elevated cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And when you're in elevated cortisol, it makes you crave sweets,
Mhm.
carbs, highly glycemic foods because it knows you're in a stress response. You need energy to fight, flight, or freeze from the tiger.
Mhm.
It doesn't care about anything else. So immediately you're reaching for the chips, the snacks, the donuts, the pretzels, the bread, the sweets and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying you can't eat that, but if you're stressed out, like when I go to the grocery store, I can tell by what's in the grocery cart if someone's stressed or not. Like
Mhm.
mine has got fruits and vegetables and all healthy stuff. Theirs is just processed stuff and chips and cookies and all that stuff. So that's why in America, like over 46% of Americans are overweight or obese. I mean, you know, the proof is literally in the pudding. So if you're stressed, you won't succeed on a diet. But if you can get your stress down, then you can succeed on the diet and lifestyle. And like I used to eat, I had a job once where I used to always eat like snack all day long on carbs, and which is very unhealthy. But one job, they actually gave me this thing. It was a lunchbox that said feed bag on it, like what you put around like an animal when they're eating all the time. Because I was always snacking and I was thin, so I could get away with it. But as I got older, I started gaining weight, and that's another thing. And now I'm pretty much back to the weight I weighed when I was in high school. So, um, I'm fairly active. I'm not on any medication, and I feel great for my age. So I'm very blessed for that. So.
That's wonderful. I really admire your choices and your lifestyle, and you're truly an inspiration for many of us. Now, for someone who has been relying on stress as a motivator, what steps do you suggest they take to begin transitioning to a stress-free approach?
I would say the first thing they can do is to do the eye movement technique we talked about. Next
Yeah.
thing I would suggest is understanding that you need to focus not on the what you're doing, but the why you're doing it. Like
Mhm.
people step on the scale in the morning, they get upset because of what they weigh, maybe. That's a fact. That's the what they're doing. But why are you doing it? And understand that stress or the stress response, which is our body's survival mechanism, which is super great, but it's never supposed to be turned on unless an emergency. It's like in a lot of commercial buildings I know in America, we have these thing called their sprinkler system. They're up in the ceiling. And in
Mhm.
case of a fire, the sprinkler system goes off and it
Yeah.
puts out the fire. And
Mhm.
that's a very good thing. But dumping all that water on the stuff in the building is going to still cause damage.
Yeah.
Okay. Causes a lot of damage, but it's still better than the building burning down.
Mhm.
Okay. So every time you trigger a stress response, you're setting off the sprinkler system and there is damage being done. It's just not really, really bad. So steps you can take are, like I said, the eye technique, understanding that if you focus just on stress relief, like get a massage, go for a walk, do yoga, call a friend, those are all good and those are all valuable to do. But stress relief is only part of the situation. Stress prevention is way more important. Because if you prevent the stress, then you can control your destiny. So that's why the tips in the book, the stress triggers, what are the things that in your life that are stressing you out? Get a piece of paper or open up your phone and write down all the things that are stressing you out. And then figure out ways to eliminate or manage them because we're not meant to be in a stress response all day long.
Mhm. Yeah. We're not designed for that. Or at least, I mean, genetically, we were designed to stay aware of the danger that was a tiger, but we were never designed to lead such. I mean, our life now seems like much more, much safer than before, but still we have the same stress responses as if we were chased by tigers all day long. So now I love success stories. So do you have any success story from a movement where someone was able to significantly reduce their stress and improve their overall well-being?
Yes, I got a testimonial from somebody who's actually a pastor here in America,
Mhm.
and it said that since I'm actually just reading exactly what he said, since I read your book and applied the ideas and principles, I have changed my eating, exercise, sleeping, and the list goes on. I'm off two of my medications. I've lost 16 pounds. My goal really wasn't to lose weight, but to stress. I'm happy with the weight loss, but better with my mindset. And actually, he was only on two. I end up communicating with him. He was only on two prescription medications. One was his blood pressure, and the other one was, I think, a statin drug for his
Wow.
cholesterol. So you'll almost never be able to succeed having a healthy lifestyle if you're under stress because you'll be eating wrong and it's the number stress is the number one killer. We all know that, and yet
Yeah.
we all adapt it as part of a lifestyle.
Mhm.
And I know you're in France, and I know you have the cafe culture there,
Yeah.
but where people go to a cafe and they have a cup of coffee with a friend, and they enjoy the time. In America, we don't have the cafe culture. We have the caffeine culture, where
Mhm.
people go. If you go to Starbucks, which is world renowned around the world,
Mhm.
I'll meet clients in Starbucks a lot of times or meet people there, and I don't drink coffee, but I'm not putting coffee down. I'm just saying I don't drink it because I don't need it. I do like the smell and the taste though. But in America, Starbucks are these beautiful buildings. They have this wonderful inside that's beautifully designed, like your living room. They put a lot
Mhm.
of effort into it, but 90% of their business is drive-through. 90% of the coffee or anything they sell is done through the people driving through their car.
So
Very
people
few
are
people are
enjoying,
actually in the Starbucks.
yeah. So they're not taking the time to enjoy drinking the coffee. They're not really
No,
experiencing that social lifestyle. They just need the caffeine rush.
they just need, and yeah, they need the paper cup with the caffeine and the foam. Yeah, that's pretty much
Double
it.
shot or triple shot.
Yeah, yeah, double makalaka, dukalaka, whatever. And they
Something
spend,
like that.
I don't call
Yeah,
it Starbucks, I call it $5 because that's about what you'll pay for a cup of coffee that you can make at
that's
home for
yep.
about 20 cents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. And you talked about difference in cultures. And here in France, for example, we take a 2 hour lunch break every day. That's like sacred. Between noon and 2 p.m., you won't find anybody in the offices. All are outside eating food for 2 hours, like taking the time and socializing and laughing, and really maybe like getting rid of all the stress they may have accumulated during the day, during the morning. So in the afternoon, everybody's happy and relaxed again. And after work, there's the after work. So they go again to have drinks and socialize and laugh and like maybe like laugh off the stress of the day. So I really love that about European cultures in general. But still, um, I mean, people are stressed, and in some way, it's well seen. Like if you are stressed enough and seem to be worrying a lot about your job, it's like you're doing well. It's like you're involved, you're really impacted by your mission, by your job, and you're really doing your best. So it's seen as a good sign if you're stressed by your job than if you are like literally just relax and just doing what you can. I don't know why this is now the way to see things, but it's really saddening. What do you think?
Well, I think the American culture is probably, you know, infiltrated around the world. And because I think that started here in America. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a American can-do attitude. And what I say, the American can-do attitude used to be one thing, but I used to say it's work, work, work. Uh, so you, let's see, work, 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 get all you can, work, 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 can all you get, work, work, work. So someday you can hopefully sit on your can.
Wow. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I used to buy into that. And my parents came from the Depression era in the 1920s, and it was always that hard, work hard, work hard. But like it's just, it's people think that effort is more important than quality. And when you're always stressing, again, you're in the wrong part of the brain. You're not thinking creatively. So businesses that have that attitude, they're turning their employees into robots. They're it's terrible culture in a business. The
Yeah.
best companies to work for have what's known as good company culture, and that's good because they let you do what you want and they trust you to do it and they don't yell and scream at you. I've had literally had bosses come into our art department at jobs I've worked at, yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs at us. Okay.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I mean, and they thought that was normal. I yeah, actually my boss didn't like it, but I yelled and screamed back at the guy. And you know
Yeah.
what? He never did it to me again.
And that's
Yeah.
only fair. Yeah.
And also you need to set your own. Nobody will. In all the year, in all the years I've worked, I don't think I've worked till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and all these kind of things, making deadlines. I don't think I've ever had someone come to me and say, Rich, you've worked hard enough. Take the night off or take the
Mm.
week off, or it's up to us to manage our stress load. Okay.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it for us. So, and the good news is that 90% of the stress that we have in our life is of our own doing. And that's good because that means we have control over 90%. So if we can get rid of 90% of our stress, the other 10% that you can't control doesn't bother you anymore. So, and our bodies store stress. We have to understand this. I, for years, when I sleep or have slept all these years, have clenched my teeth. Now, you can make decisions about what you do during the day when you're awake. But when you're asleep and you're clenching your teeth, the only way to stop clenching is to wake up. And you're not going to wake up because you're sound asleep. And that has cost me, I've had two teeth pulled, I've had teeth crack, I had to get crowns. It's cost me a lot of money and a lot of aggravation,
Mm.
a lot from clenching my teeth. And it's called bruxism. And the main cause of it is stress because our body stores stress. So everything has a price. Nina, when someone goes in the store and you pick something up, it's got a price on it. And
Mhm.
in our life, everything has a price. Everything you do, there's a cost to it. And if you're in stress, that's the biggest cost of all. So companies that push this culture of go, 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 rush, 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 that's a terrible culture. And I call it the boss that comes in and threatens, like, if we don't get this done by 2 o'clock, heads will roll. We'll have to do layoffs. People will get fired. Those are actually bosses. I think they're great. They're actually the worst boss in the world because they're
Yeah.
using stress as motivation. They're turning their employees into robots and they're just going to get the job done just to get it done for survival and
Mm.
not do what's the best for the company or the customer.
Plus, the long-term results will be people just quitting and they have to train other people and have to hire other people and have to lose a lot of money in the long term. But yeah,
Yeah, they burn out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed talking to you, Rich, today. So, what message would you like to leave with our listeners today, especially those struggling with stress and looking for ways to improve their quality of life?
I would say that, like I said before, 90% of their stress is under your control. Find out what's stressing you out. Understand that this is the number one thing. This will affect your weight, your physical health, your mental health, your behavioral health, your relationship health, your sexual health, problems at work, your finances big time. This is why people have struggled with substance abuse. And if you have all these things and stress in your life, overall, you can have really, really poor quality of life.
Yeah.
So, who wants to have poor quality of life? So, make getting rid of stress the number one priority. And all these other things you may have dabbled in to try to fix, try to live on a budget, have better, control your money, better relate, all the things I just mentioned. If you handle just getting rid of the stress, all these other things just going to come into being. And you literally, it's much easier to tackle one thing than to
Mhm.
try to fix all 10.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you so much, Rich, for sharing your experience about stress and all these valuable tips. I really learned a lot today, and I will definitely try your technique to fall asleep faster because everybody needs that. So, thank you so much for joining me today in the Success Catalyst podcast. And thank you to all our listeners. And we'll see you again in the next episode.